Hi there and welcome back. My name is Sheldon McLeod. This is Thinking Out Loud, presented to you here exclusively by the Saltwire Network. And as we learned through the reporting over the weekend, a huge group of students down towards Dalhousie University. It was an unsanctioned event, as mentioned, a homecoming gathering. And according to Halifax Regional Police, anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 people in an area block bordered by Larch, Preston, and Jennings Streets, and between that and Coburg. And this is the second year that there's been this type of party. And I'd mentioned, the pandemic, people are ready to get back out there and get back to life. And I wanted to hear a perspective from the university's student union president. And Aparna Mohan, have I correctly pronounced your name?
Aparna Mohan, yeah.
Aparna, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of folks are interested in hearing what the student union has to say about what happened Saturday. Have you released a statement?
Not quite yet, but we have been taking every interview that we can get.
And what is it that you want Nova Scotians and Haligonians to know about what happened Saturday night?
First and foremost, what happened Saturday night was absolutely unacceptable and a demonstration of so much disruption and disrespect to the community. And that piece is not at all lost on us, as we also recognize that there's three different layers to all of this, right? Like there's the legal aspect of it, there's the moral aspect of it, and then there's the practical aspect of it. And we've spent the last several years talking about the street party being illegal and immoral because it is inconsiderate of the community. But repeatedly emphasizing that message hasn't seemed to have worked. We still saw this party happen in the middle of a pandemic. And we can recognize that, if we want to change outcomes for the future, we have to collaborate and cooperate differently. And given that this has become predictable, this has become a little bit more, has taken more shape, like we're able to tell and predict certain characteristics of the party. What happened this weekend really felt like a collective policy failure on the part of DAL as well as the city. Both of these groups need to work together to actually come up with a solution to address the street party, but neither of them were meeting with one another. DAL turned down and couldn't provide enough funding for our proposal, and the alcohol bans that have been increasing over the years, the closure of Jubilee Junction and AAA, and the restriction of those business hours have all kept compounding this issue, and it's spinning. It seems to be spinning further and further out of everyone's control, and we certainly don't think that any one group can completely shut this down and completely, solve this overnight. But I think there are ways to rein it in, and very clear evidence-based recommendations that are being made if people want to see different outcomes. And one of those recommendations from the DSU repeatedly throughout the summer has been for a sanctioned on-campus outdoor concert that would be put on and led by us. And we saw that our concerts during O Week were incredibly successful. We received comments from, HRP saying that they had a relatively peaceful weekend when they weren't expecting to, because all the students that normally would have been out and about in and around the residences or in the neighborhood were instead on campus, on the quad, at our concert. However, there's been so much going on this year, and we don't have a budget line for homecoming. So to pull away energy from what happened over the weekend, we really needed DAL as well as the city to step up and collaborate with us, but neither of those things happened.
You said this was predictable, and you'd mentioned how the student union had worked towards trying to bring some kind of event together, but it looks like a financial issue. What is it that you want neighbors to know about the proposals that you've made, about the work that's been put in place to try and obviously avoid this kind of thing from happening? That clearly that didn't happen this time either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of our proposal was to have another outdoor concert either on the quad or even at an off-campus location like the Commons or Garrison Grounds, where we saw an incredibly successful outdoor concert happen over the summer for Halifax Pride. The biggest barrier in that conversation was, I mean, I was told to not even call it homecoming, to find a different name for it, and then we were told that we could only get $10,000, which barely covers even one headliner, and then we were told that it would take weeks, that we'd need to speed through certain get noise permits, and there are other permissions to use that space. There was a lot of logistical labor and logistical stuff that needed to be done, and all Dal could say, well, is we don't really want our name attached to this, so like if you want to do it, go do it. And I mean, like, we're coming off a summer that featured a 39-year high inflation. I was responding to the housing crisis and calling and dealing with students not arriving to the city and not having any housing. And then right after that, we went into O Week. And then right after that, we went into this hurricane. And then after that, we went into this homecoming situation. And we're also bracing ourselves for a potential strike from part-time academics and teaching assistants, because they haven't had a wage raise in over 2 years and are being crushed under the pressure of inflation and other rising costs of living. So the university really did not share or pull their weight in the recommendations that we made, expected us to do kind of all the work. So there was only a certain extent we could go, and it just, since it wasn't landing anywhere, we weren't getting the resources that we needed to put it on. We had to resort to a bit more of a passive role, and supported some on-campus harm reduction efforts to, distribute food and water, because we know that, well, at the very least, well-fed and hydrated students are less disruptive than students who aren't and haven't eaten all day. And the DSU and their sustainability student groups organized to co-facilitate a cleanup last night of Larch Street and Jennings Street that I heard was appreciated by neighbors.
It's ironic in some ways that the university, as you point out, wanted not to have their name attached to it, but people are saying it's Dalhousie students that are responsible for this, and it happened near Dalhousie campus. So in some ways it feels though the union has taken some steps toward it, but how much dread did you have knowing that even though you tried to work something out in advance, that was the party was going to happen, and all indicators were it might be out of control?
Oh, a lot of dread. I mean, I didn't really have much of a weekend. I just, I braced myself for what was coming. I didn't really have any break. The executive team and I were supporting actions and community building efforts throughout the weekend, right? Like, we had the cleanup yesterday. We did supported things that were happening on campus on Saturday. And then on Friday, we were supporting truth and reconciliation activities. We're really living the values that we want to see within the community, but when Dalhousie, this larger and much more well-resourced institution, with a president that gets paid a salary of more than all of our executive team combined, isn't showing up and even putting in a fraction of the work that we're doing as a students union, like it's hard to sit with, you know? And I know I've been getting a lot of messages and anger at the messages that I chose to stick to. And really the kind of engagement that I'm doing as a student leader is what we should be seeing more from the university. And I'm here trying to manage the reactions, manage the and protect certain student interests, and not lose sight of the fact that, yes, while there are students that behaved in unacceptable and disruptive and disrespectful ways, we do still have the average student working 2-3 part-time jobs. We've seen our food bank see an increase of 30 to 40% in usage since the pandemic started. Despite what was on display Saturday night, students are struggling. And that's what I think motivated a lot of the preemptive kind of messaging on my part. I'm so, quite frankly, scared of the community losing sight of the fact that there are many students that are being priced out of a university education. And that's part of what's giving rise to this uncontained and uncontrolled partying that we're seeing. It predominantly is students that have the privilege and the resources to do so. But I want to remind folks that Dal has 20,000 students. And, you know, having 3,000 to 4,000 students on a street is a lot, absolutely. But when I went to examine the situation, there was someone next to me talking about how he graduated from Wilfrid Laurier earlier this year and just flew down to Halifax to check out Dalhousie. I met people from MSVU. I met people from SMU. I tried to talk to people and really meet people where they're at and understand, you know, why are you here? And again, it was part of the you know, understanding and the kind of curiosity and openness that I'm advocating for, without necessarily condoning what happened. And the number of people that I met from other universities that have been happy to kind of co-opt what's happening adjacent to the Dal community does also give me a lot of concern, but it also does emphasize to me that, okay, there's absolutely more responsibility that Dalhousie can take. And because Dalhousie isn't taking enough responsibility, they're letting what is a small group of students damage the reputation and the hard work and labor of so many different students. I was with a student on Saturday who worked an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, handing out water bottles, handing out condoms, handing out pamphlets and flyers about Dal security and other resources that they could call if they needed. And then maybe had an hour break to have supper and returned to campus for a 24-hour shift with our student-led first responder team. And she was so happy to do it. And the students that did stop by to grab a bite to eat or drink water weren't necessarily malicious and didn't strike me as necessarily evil, you know? Some of them were so grateful for the distribution of food and water that they were asking how they could get involved with health promotion efforts and so on. So I saw potential there. I saw opportunity there to build a little bit more social capital and build a little bit more credibility with our students by actually caring about them. It might be a radical idea, but you know, maybe the last 2 years have featured a lot of leadership decisions that make Dalhousians feel uncared for, and doesn't justify what we saw. Absolutely not. But if we're going to talk about what we can do and what's in our control, then Dal absolutely needs to be re-examining its relationship with students.
Well said. I want to thank you for speaking. I would challenge people to perhaps, before they jump to conclusions, listen to what you just had to say, and wanted to just say thank you for your words. And I don't know why anyone would want to take on the role of student union president, given what you've just described over the last number of years. You're still happy with the job, not necessarily with what happened on Saturday?
This week is going to be tough. It's pretty thankless, but I am incredibly grateful. And the vast majority of Dal students, like I said, do love showing up for the community and feel fueled by this, especially after 2 years of disconnection and disruption from the pandemic.
Dalhousie Student Union President, thank you so much for this. And I want to say your name correctly. Aparna Mohan?
Aparna Mohan.
Aparna Mohan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.